But first, for another look at the budget, let's take the view of somebody who shares my view that budget repair is kind of the most important thing you can do, regardless of winning votes and all the rest of it. He, like me, is a man who hates the smoking taxes, and he's a bloke who I hope holds on to his Senate seat from New South Wales. He would be the Liberal Democrat Senator David Leyonhjelm, and he joins us now from Canberra. Senator, good evening to you.
Hello, Paul.
So what did you think of the budget in terms of, big, brave decisions? We had 7 months of everything being on the table, and it felt like that all that was left in the end that they really did was, a couple of dinner rolls.
Yeah, there's not much good to say about it. In fact, it's easier to talk about what it's not. It's not going to balance the budget. It's not a tax cut. It's not a spending cut. It doesn't take us any closer to getting off the path that Greece was on. Honestly, you need balls the size of a gnat to produce a budget like this. I think that's what it shows.
Now, what about the smoking tax thing? Because, you've gone publicly that you don't like the idea of it. I don't either. Both you and I smoke cigars, but it's more than that. It's 2.5 million people who have been whacked yet again. And I looked at the budget papers today, and a lot of people wouldn't know this. The Australian government collects more tax out of tobacco than it does out of petrol. Out of unleaded petrol, they get 6.4 billion. Out of smoking, it's 9.4 billion.
9 billion, yes. 9 billion, that's right. And we've done an estimate of what smokers cost the community, and there's always this nonsense statement about them costing tens of billions of dollars. It's absolute garbage. No decent economist says that. We reckon it's around about $500 million a year. Those extra costs are in health, and also that includes some allowance for the fact that smokers throw their butts away, and that occasionally starts bushfires. So if you add all that in and we don't give them the benefit of the doubt, it adds up to about $500 million a year. It's 17, 18 times as much in tobacco excise that's collected from smokers. They are paying for everybody else's health care, everybody else's schools and hospitals and pensions and all that sort of stuff.
Well, and this is what you see. Yeah, I mean, to me as a decision, look, we all know that people smoking, it's all shortening your own life, but it's your choice to do so, as foolish as it may be, and we know that. But there's only so many times you can whack away at this group, as well as it's disproportionately affecting those on smaller incomes. But just about welfare as well. I mean, what continues in this budget, despite the talk, and yes, there'll be a shake on the disability support pension. It's $158 billion is what it costs to keep the welfare system going. That means 8 out of 10 people, their entire income tax goes to pay for welfare. What are some of the choices that any government, Labor, Liberal or Liberal Democrat, has to make to change that equation?
Well, look, we've got to get back to the situation where welfare is for poor people, and also get off this idea that pensions are an entitlement you get just because you reach a certain age. That's never been the case in Australia, and yet there is a widespread perception that because I've worked and paid taxes all my life, therefore I'm entitled to a pension. They're wrong. Welfare is for low-income, poor people who can't survive on their own resources. The same goes for pensions. And yet, we have lots of money going to people who are not poor. We have all sorts of benefits going to people who are not poor. Even childcare, the means test tops out at $180,000 a year. We have people on pensions living in multi-million-dollar houses, and their pensions are being funded by people paying taxes who are working, who don't even own a house. Until we get over this idea that the middle class are also poor enough to receive welfare, we have got a serious problem.
But I've talked about this before when I showed that the numbers at state, federal and local, all levels of government are getting more taxes than they have ever got before. Australia doesn't have a revenue problem, it has a spending problem, but there is an even bigger issue here, is that Australians have an expectations problem. We view the budget as what's in it for me personally, and are we basically at that Mitt Romney point now where almost half of the country is invested in government giving them something, which means it's politically impossible to actually do what is needed to put off what is going to be real trouble in not too many years' time?
Yes, I think that's right. In fact, Henry Ergas tells a joke about the European leaders who were meeting to discuss Greece, and after they'd met, they had a press conference, and the Prime Minister of Luxembourg said, well, we all know what to do, it's just we don't know how to do it and stay elected. That's the problem that we're getting into in Australia. I'm pretty sure that Chris Bowen knows what should be done. I'm absolutely sure that Scott Morrison knows what should be done. They don't know how to do it and stay elected. That's the problem. And for exactly the reason you said, that there are too many people who vote according to their own personal circumstances, and they think they are entitled to other people's money. They don't see it as other people's money, they see it as government money, but it is other people's money and they think they're entitled to it.
Right, and just finally here, as the Senate will rise in the next couple of days, what are you going to do to stand out from what is going to be a pretty big crowd in this election? What are you going to do?
Well, there won't be anybody else speaking up for the right of smokers to continue doing what they're doing, irrespective of what it does for their health. Arguing against the smokers tax, that's a bilateral thing. There's lots of other issues on which we're the only ones speaking up. And of course, we're the only ones who say, well, everyone deserves a tax cut at all levels of income tax, not just the second highest one. Everybody should have a reduction in their income tax. And if we cut out middle class welfare and some of the duplication between the states and the Commonwealth government, we could easily afford that. It's all doable.
Good stuff. All the best to you, David Leyonhjelm. Remember, people at a double dissolution election, they've got 12 choices. I hope in New South Wales you're at least one of them. All the best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, mate. David Leyonhjelm there from the Liberal Democrats Party. Joining me on